I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay? We're going to kill them.
Continue our coverage this evening of the local state employee who was arrested and terminated from his position after several kilograms of suspected cocaine were seized. And I have a look at what happened in court today.
8 kilograms of cocaine found inside the governor's own office, carried by the man appointed to represent the state's western region. This wasn't a cartel warehouse. This was the seat of public trust turned into a supply line. This wasn't an outside threat. This was betrayal wearing a government badge. If you want to see how deep the rot goes, we go deeper.
Child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. He's a dirty cop.
At 5:12 a.m., the streets of Springfield, Massachusetts were still quiet. The hallways were quiet. The Springfield State Office building was breached. The DEA, backed by FBI tactical units, moved through the hallways like a shadow cutting through stone. No screams, no warnings, just steady footsteps, and the cold weight of what they knew they were about to find. A steel door broke open with a loud bang. The sound echoed through the office like thunder. Inside, stacks of job briefs and framed photos sat on desks, symbols of public trust. But trust had been broken. On the conference table lay a sealed courier box. But when the agents opened it, the truth stabbed them like a knife to the heart. 8 kilograms of pure cocaine, a 9mm pistol, and an envelope containing $38,500 in cash. And standing at the desk, the man in handcuffs was Lamar Cook, Deputy Director of the Governor's Office of Western Massachusetts. A man paid to serve the public. A man who had spoken of integrity on camera. But now he was caught with enough cocaine to supply several cities. This betrayal was deeper than any drug bust. Because when the people who were supposed to protect the system began poisoning it. If you're still watching, you understand this isn't about drugs. It's about infiltration. Comment. So, I know you're following. After Lamar Cook was raided, a governor's office arrested. The DEA digital forensics team started with a laptop from Cook's desk. Encryption not typically found in government buildings. The FBI's cyber unit worked for hours. When the screen was finally unlocked, the investigation had gone from a single arrest to something much larger. The screen was filled with shipping records, schedules, and carefully encrypted notes. A series of shipments over 14 months. The cartels are all suppressing methamphetamine tablets. So these look exactly like an Adderall pill. Fake pills, fentanyl sticks, methamphetamine crystals. These are from Mexico. These are just some of the 500 pounds of drugs seized in a federal crackdown on the Sinaloa cartel. 19 shipments in all, each weighing between 8 and 20 kilograms. All shipped through the regular state postal system and drop-off points inside warehouses and docks. The more they followed the trail, the more names appeared. Not street dealers. It wasn't criminals lurking in the alleys. It was the people who had sworn to serve and protect the people who were now poisoning their own. The names of the positions that emerged were revealing. Patrolman, officer, deputy sheriff, court clerk. Each played a role. Together, they formed a subterranean chain, a network built to move cocaine quietly through Massachusetts neighborhoods, schools, and homes. The agents traced the supply chain, and what they discovered was chilling. Shipments were scheduled during government business hours. FBI operation ended in dozens arrested, including police officers, sheriff's deputies, and 2 sheriffs. Packages were routed through the State House mailroom. Evidence was routed through state-owned municipal storage facilities. The cocaine didn't originate in Massachusetts. It came from a violent criminal gang operating throughout the Northeast Corridor, known as La Viva Sangre, a paramilitary drug syndicate operating from New York to Maine. This is a system rotten from within. Badges, positions, oaths, things that were meant to protect the public have been turned against them. And now the question is no longer who, but how far this network has spread. And the next step will not be quiet. It will be a war. This is where the quiet investigation ends, and the war begins. Tap like so the algorithm doesn't bury this story. At 3:50 a.m., Inside a federal command post just outside Worcester, a digital map of Massachusetts glowed with red markers. Each marker represented a location connected to the network: storage units, safe houses, parking lots, and distribution apartments suspected of housing gang members nestled among otherwise normal neighborhoods. At 4:03 a.m., a single message appeared on a secured screen: "Action all units." Then things began to move across the 5 boroughs. FBI, DEA, and state tactical teams deployed simultaneously. 14 targets, 14 minutes. No warning, no escape. In Lowell, armored vehicles stopped outside a 2-story auto shop. Agents lined up at the door. A white flash of intruder mine. The steel door swung inward. Inside, 3 men reached for their weapons, intending to fight back, but they had no chance. Stun grenades exploded, echoing like thunder, stuck inside the concrete walls. At the same time, in Springfield, a warehouse disguised as an agricultural distributor hid something else entirely. Underneath the tarps, 200 pounds of cocaine and 90 pounds of fentanyl wrapped, sealed, ready for shipping. The operation didn't stay silent for long. In Worcester, a surveillance camera in the garage picked up movement. Within seconds, the suspects had grabbed their rifles and were trying to flee through the back alley. A Black Hawk helicopter passed overhead. Its rotor blades shaking the laptop reveals network roof. A voice thundered over the loudspeaker: "Drop your weapons. You're surrounded." The suspects were still firing. The alley erupted into close combat. Muzzle flash lit up the brick walls. Burns splattered on the sidewalk. A DEA agent ducked behind a wall. 2 FBI agents advanced, disciplined and deliberate. Short bursts, controlled breathing. No panic. After 9 minutes, the street fell silent. The 3 suspects lay motionless. 2 surrendered, their hands shaking as they realized the escape routes they had relied on were gone. By sunrise, the scale of the operation was undeniable. 47 arrests, 2 tons of drugs seized at multiple locations, 129 guns, including illegally modified rifles and foreign imports. Dozens of phones and encrypted ledgers filled with encrypted initials and payment logs. News helicopters circled overhead. Residents watched from their windows. And across the state, one truth was inescapable. This was no small operation. This was an empire operating right next to homes, schools, businesses. And now, for the first time, it was bleeding. But the raid did something else. Those traces were about to reveal the entire map of the underground network. If you're still here, you're the kind of person who doesn't look away. When the smoke cleared and the suspects were carried out in cuffs, the real work began. The raids were only the front door. The true architecture of the network was still hidden, woven through businesses, homes, and institutions that looked ordinary from the outside. Inside the Boston Federal Analysis Center, walls were lined with screens displaying evidence collected overnight. Agents, analysts, financial crime specialists, and cyber teams worked shoulder to shoulder. Every file seized, every hard drive is cloned, every encrypted text decrypted line by line. As the data unfolded, a map began to take shape, not a map of streets, a map of power. For primary distribution corridors ran through Massachusetts, disguised inside legitimate logistics companies. Their trucks moved produce, hardware, construction supplies, anything that allowed sealed containers to go unquestioned. The cocaine Cook received was only one endpoint in a pipeline stretching from the Mexican border through Ohio into New York and finally settling in Boston's commuter belt. Then came the storage network. What appeared to be community food warehouses were in reality cold storage fronts. Behind stacks of frozen vegetables were brick-sized drug packages marked with coded symbols indicating purity level and destination. Next were the financial arteries. Analysts identified 2 private casinos, small exclusive invitation only. No neon signs, no crowds, just quiet back rooms where chips became cash and cash became electronic deposits routed into shell companies registered in Delaware and Puerto Rico. No alarms, no audits. Money flowed like it belonged there. The most alarming discovery came from charitable organizations. A nonprofit claiming to support community youth outreach had processed over 3 million in donations. The donor names were fake. The money came from drug sales, and the same nonprofit paid speaking fees, campaign support contributions, and security consulting retainers to several local officials. The network had designed itself to look helpful. Helpful to the community, helpful to the state, helpful to everyone except the families burying their dead from overdoses. This was the heartbreak. The cartel did not hide in the shadows. It wore the mask of everyday life. Your mechanic, your neighbor, your town fundraiser sponsor, your elected representative. This was how it survived. Not through violence alone, but through trust. Bought silently. As the final pins went into the investigative board, the room fell quiet. The scale was now undeniable. 14 targets in 14 minutes, $220 million in annual profits. Thousands of households affected. Institutions compromised from within. And yet something else emerged. Weak points, patterns, locations where operation depended on a small number of individuals still active. The empire may have been wide, but it was also thin in key places. Those places could break. The decision was made. The next phase would not be surveillance. It would be purification. The shield had been stained. Now it will be cleaned. The raids had exposed the network. The map had revealed its shape. But the hardest part was only beginning, because the cartel's greatest weapon was not the drugs it moved. It was the people it had taken with it. At dawn, unmarked federal vans rolled toward police precincts, municipal buildings, and administrative offices across Massachusetts. These were not the fast, violent entries of the earlier raids. These were precise, surgical, inevitable. Inside a district station in Worcester, officers gathered around morning briefings like any other day until federal agents stepped through the front doors, not with raised weapons, but with warrants. A lieutenant who had served 23 years stared in disbelief as his badge and sidearm were removed. A detective once praised for reducing neighborhood drug crime lowered his head as his own handcuffs clicked shut. A procurement official froze when agents opened a filing cabinet and lifted out envelopes of stage community outreach funds that were anything but. 17 police officers, 2 municipal administrators, 1 state procurement advisor, all taken into custody before noon. There were no shouts, no excuses, just silence heavy enough to bend the room. Some officers looked away. Some looked at the ground. Some watched with pain in their eyes because they had suspected something was wrong, but had never believed the betrayal ran this deep. On the sidewalk, an elderly man held a folded American flag, the same flag he once donated to the precinct after his son's funeral. He watched silently as officers were escorted out in cuffs. No shouting, no anger, just the look of someone realizing the uniform he trusted had betrayed him. Outside, citizens gathered in small crowds. Some were angry, some were heartbroken. Many simply stood in still disbelief because it wasn't strangers who had poisoned their neighborhoods. It was men and women they trusted to guard them. In Boston, the governor addressed the state. His voice did not boom. It was steady, controlled, like someone holding the weight of a cracked foundation. If the badge is used to harm the people, then the shield is broken. And when the shield is broken, we repair it. We do not look away. In response, the Integrity Review Task Force was formed, an independent bureau with full authority to audit police departments, government offices, financial transfers, and procurement chains tied to public agencies. The mission was clear. Restore trust where trust had been taken. Rebuild institutions where institutions had been used. Protect communities where communities had been deceived. It would not be fast. It would not be simple, but it had begun. Cook's arrest had once seemed like a single scandal. Now it was understood for what it truly was. A warning of how close darkness had come. And from this point forward, Massachusetts would not look away. The shield would stand again, clean, unbroken, and watched by those who refused to be silent. When the last door closed, when the final ledger was logged, when the badges were collected and sealed into evidence bags, Massachusetts stood in a moment of quiet reckoning. not victory, not relief, something heavier, something real. Because what unfolded here was never just about cocaine, cash, or seized weapons. It was about trust. The trust between the people and the institutions sworn to defend them. And that trust had been broken from the inside. The warehouse raids, the office arrests, the firefights in alleys and loading docks. All of it pointed to one truth that cut deeper than the drugs themselves. The threat wasn't only outside our borders. It was wearing our uniforms. It was operating from our offices. It was shaking our hands. But the same state that had been infiltrated also fought back. Not with denial, not with silence, but with relentless exposure and accountability. Badges were removed, offices were cleaned, departments were audited, names were spoken out loud without fear of who they once were. And now the question left in the air is the one that matters. What do we do next? Because corruption does not die in a single raid. Cartels do not vanish in one operation. Trust does not rebuild itself overnight. This story is not just arrests inside government about Massachusetts. It is about every city, every county, every department across America that believes it is immune until it isn't. So I ask you, not as viewers, but as people who live behind the same flag, do you believe this fight should continue? If you do, hit like so this story reaches the next person who needs to hear it. Comment below, shield or silence. Which side do you stand on? And if you want to follow the next chapter, subscribe and stay here with us because the war for integrity is not finished. Massachusetts was only the beginning. The next state won't fall this quietly.